live on my Facebook here with the beautiful Kat X Saunders. So let me just see. Hello, me. Let me know where you're tuning in from. It tells me I'm live. Yes, there we are. Okay, so I just love doing these interviews, and just not because I get to share other people's stories, but for me it's a connection as well. So many of us we know each other within the community, we know who we are, but there's just to connect. And when we sometimes haven't met in person, I was lucky enough to meet Kat in person in Bali around this time last year, and the connection, the community is just amazing. So Kat is just, she's a dog mama. She's just a powerhouse woman. She's so passionate about living. So Kat, thank you for being here. Can you just share a little bit about your story and where you were when you found this opportunity?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here. And as you said, the community is awesome, and it's so nice to be able to connect with people, not just in Australia, but around the world, and it's just really exciting. So thank you. Where was I when I got started? I am a traditional business owner, and as you mentioned, and as you can see, I am a dog fan. I actually run a traditional business training dogs, and I've been blessed to do that for 20 years. Absolutely love it. It is, my passion work. Anyone that works with animals knows, the heart that goes into that, and also with the heart is the emotional component. You're wearing all the hats. It's not just your 9 to 5. And let's face it, the 9 to 5 is never 9 to 5 because you're sitting in traffic anyway on either side of that. But loving my work, putting my heart and my soul, my husband's a dog trainer. So that gives you any inclination of, how much passion I've got in that industry and for animals, but particularly with dogs. And, running my own business, I was mentoring other dog trainers. I was working in shelters, the welfare sector, and all of that leads very quickly to burnout. And one of the things, some of your listeners, your viewers may not know is, people that work in the animal welfare sector, actually the mental health crisis in there is, I believe it to be second on the list, second to dental.
Wow.
So, of course, they don't really teach you this when you get into the industry, and you're giving and you're giving and you're giving and you're giving, and you end up with nothing left. And I remember jumping into my car on my way home, and it was like the second that car door shut, I just got hit. It was I describe it as being ambushed with emotions. You can't see burnout happening. When you're a go-getter, you're a positive person, when you're running businesses, when you're like, go, 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 some people refer to it as your A-type kind of personality. You don't see it coming. And then all of a sudden it's like this massive brick wall, and, it's just like bang, and it hits you. And I describe it as broken. And I know that's a strong word, and some people may not resonate with it, but the way that I use the word broken is, my understanding is when you break a bone, when it heals, it becomes stronger. So to me, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad word. You're just in a space that you need to heal. So that's where I was, and I knew I needed to do some work. I knew how to help dogs. I knew how to do applied behavior with dogs. I knew how to do all of that. I'm like, there must be something. Like, where is this dog training stuff for people? I ended up going on a beautiful healing journey. And it was when I was in that space that I learned this beautiful thing called automation, passive income. I, stumbled across the 4-Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss. It's a great book if you haven't read it. And then someone presented me, like literally I saw a post on Facebook, and they said, hey, are you sick of the grind? Are you sick of, all of this kind of stuff, and want to be able to learn a different way to create an income? I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I will always work with dogs. That's my passion. But now, since diving in, this is like a long story, but since diving in, now I get to connect with beautiful people, and I'm a very, contribution is something that is really high for me on my values list. So now I get to work with other beautiful women, show them the way as well, so they're not getting stuck or having to repeat the mistakes that I learned. If they can learn from mine and expedite their learning, that's a win-win. And now I get to work through passion, with time flexibility versus, this is with my dogs, versus obligation to pay bills and that the negative emotional state of having to feel like I needed to save the world, so doing the inner work, jumping into this space, which is where all the work is, which is something that a lot of people don't realize. It's a win-win. And that's kind of my journey over the last 5.5 years or so. And it's just been absolutely phenomenal. I just absolutely love it. That's my story in a few minutes.
I love that, Kat, and especially a couple of things that you shared, because I personally love to work with women that are at that burnout stage, because I totally get it. It just all of a sudden creeps up on you, and then bang, We like to say, especially in the coaching space, we get tickled with a feather, and then we get hit in the head with a brick, and then we get smacked with a Mack truck. And so often we don't listen to the feather, and sometimes we don't even listen to the brick until that Mack truck actually hits. And it's like, so many women are just like following or building a business with their passion project. But like you said, like, it's a whole different energy when we have to do it from that space of, it's got to pay the bills. I've got to make this money in order to feed myself and things like that. But when we can continue with our passion projects, knowing that we have another income stream coming in, it's just a completely different energy, isn't it?
Like, you've just hit the nail on the head, and it's something that I'm so passionate about. As you said, like, as women, we're not taught, we're kind of conditioned to look after everybody else first, do everything else. And we've got some beautiful opportunities now that perhaps our grandparents may not have had. We've still got a long way to go, but we've definitely come a long way. But with that, now we're trying to be the CEOs, the bosses of everything at the same time. Perhaps we're wanting to raise our children. Perhaps we're wanting to travel. Perhaps we're wanting, whatever it is for yourself personally. And we just haven't figured out that balance yet. Well, many of us haven't. And it's not until that burnout like absolutely smacks us and we're like, holy shit, what is this? Because we're not taught to pick up on these subtle little nuances of like, hang on, this isn't aligned, like working like this, something is wrong. We just keep wanting more. And it's like, well, hang on, sometimes you need to step back a little bit and do a little pivot in order to create that abundance of more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, we give so much to everyone else, and that's where I see so many women as well. And we can't give from an empty cup, and that's where the burnout comes. So when we learn to go on that personal development, that healing, and I love how you explained that, that broken, and so true, because a bone generally never breaks again in the same place, because the body goes, oh, I haven't done my job here properly, and it heals it stronger than it actually was before it got broken. And so when we go on this journey, like, it's like we get to peel back the layers of the onion, but at the same time shine our light so much brighter, because we're working on ourselves constantly and constantly stepping into that next level version of ourselves. And I love that what we have here shines the light on all of our shadows. So has anything come up for you with like doing this work as well as, building your business?
Oh, wow. Yes. It would be nice to say, no, like, everything's fine. But, like, as they say, you hit a new level, and it's amazing, and it's more expansive, but new level, new devil, and I kind of sit there and I look at, whether you call it the shadow work or whatever, I sit there, and one of the ways that I describe it, it's like you've got a torch, you can just shine around and you go, oh, there you are, you sneaky little bugger. Now I know you're there. It doesn't mean that you have to confront it immediately. But when you know it's there, you have the power in order to work through it, heal it, remove it, whatever it is. So, what's come up for me? It's been quite interesting. One of the first things that was a big realization for me was a money block. And the money block, I would have said that it had a pretty good, healthy money story. And for anyone that may not be familiar with money stories, it's, we download our beliefs around money, just like we have our accents, right? So if you grew up in Ireland, you're going to have an Irish accent because that's what you're surrounded with, etc. So we download our money beliefs like we do, like the same as an accent, from our environment, from our parents. And whilst I had a pretty good money story, like, it wasn't that, when we hear the things like money doesn't grow on trees, money can't make you happy, it wasn't quite that deep. But I was capped because, and what I discovered is a lot of women have this cap on how much they can earn because they won't out earn their father. And I'm like, oh, so, I came from a traditional middle class, family. Dad was the, the higher income earner. Mum worked, yes, but she worked in and around us as kids. And then all of a sudden, there was that cap because we have this patriarchal kind of thing, and we live in a misogynistic society. And I mean this with love. I'm a massive supporter of mature, beautiful, masculine energy. And then all of a sudden I realized, like, ooh, this is why I can't break through to that next layer, because on a deeper level, it was like I was being disrespectful to my father. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, logically, it sounds like absolute nonsense, like absolute BS. But I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I, had to dive in and do work around feeling safe to hold that money, that it's not disrespectful to my father. And yes, I mean, that was just one thing that just, popped into my mind. We're always learning. I still had to learn not to give too much, because that was definitely a huge pattern of mine, just to give. And especially when you get so much from contribution, when you're contributing to others and you get that rush from, the joy in your heart just explodes for it. So boundaries, I think, were the other thing. Oh, and sorry, this just came to me. One of the things that really, this is a cool thing, but doing live interviews, right? You just get these downloads. One of the things that really came to me really, really clearly was, from self, but now I share this with others. We never know where our boundaries are to start off with until someone crosses them. And then we get our knickers in a knot. And we're like, you're crossing a boundary here. We're feeling, violated in whatever energetic space that is. But more often it's because we don't know where our own boundaries are. So we're just opening the floodgates and we're allowing, and people don't do this, not everyone is crossing a boundary because they're, cheeky or a rat bag, But if we don't know where our boundaries are, how can we hold space and sit there and have the confidence to say no? And that just might be when, someone asks you to do something. It might be, as an example, if I was working with dogs and someone was having a really hard time with their dog, and they might say, well, the only time I've got available is 8 p.m. on a Sunday. Well, I'm more than happy to help you, but I can't help you at 8 p.m. on a Sunday. But if we don't know our boundaries and we say yes, like there's already that, are you kidding me? It's 8 p.m. on a Sunday. I don't want to work on, a Sunday night. Like, this is just an example, but it's understanding our own boundaries of how much we are giving to other people and how much we willingly, give to other people. So boundaries and the cap on the money story as well. We're probably.
I love that. As a recovering people pleaser, I love that you've touched on this, because, and how we bring it back to ourselves also, because if there's no fences up, people will cross into your territory. If we don't have those fences for boundaries, they don't know. So we have to learn along the way. And I also love that you shared your money story about your dad as well. And I find it's a lot with women and their husbands also, and that comes down from that patriarchal and that male in the house. But what I'm loving seeing so much in this community is women out earning their husbands and actually bringing them home from a job that, yes, possibly they were making quite a bit of money in order to, support the family, to pay the mortgage, to put food on the table. And then all of a sudden they are retiring them from these to then the husbands can now go and do their passion projects. And when we look at success the old way, it was so masculine. But what I'm seeing within our community is so many of us are stepping so much more into our feminine energy and creating from ease and flow rather than from, struggle and hustle. Like, have you found that as well?
Absolutely. So, like we touched on the patriarch, we've touched on, the misogynistic society that we've all grown up in. And this is why women are people pleasers, because we have been raised, like, even if your parents are the most beautiful souls, right? They do the best that they can with what they know. But we're raised to be good girls. We're raised to support others, to help others, to give. This is where the pattern comes from. But there's also, if you would, the fallout for our beautiful men as well, because they're raised that they've got to earn the money, they've got to be the supporter, they've got to be the strong one, you know, all of this type of stuff. So there's a massive imbalance there, because, you know, if they're feeling obligated to have to go to work in order to support, you know, their families, again, I am talking traditional roles here, respect for everyone's dynamic, but that throws them out of whack. And then they're not able to be, you know, the beautiful truth of who they are to come home and support us. So one of the things that I've found is, you know, my husband does Brazilian jiu-jitsu and absolutely loves it. And he's now able to train 5-6 times a week. You know, he has traveled over to the United States. He's competed in the World Masters. Like, this is how I get to support him now. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, he works with dogs the same as I do. We will always do that. But now it's more through passion, again, rather than an obligation of having to work all the time. And the balance in our relationship, because he is not as stressed from having to work. And, you know, potentially, you know, there may have been something, if he was watching me become stressed, you know, that's not going to help him feel any better. So the dynamics in the family are just so much nicer. And now I get to, you know, change the lineage, you know, for my son. I get to teach a different way of being and a different expectation of relationships, where we get to heal and we don't need to ask for permission. We ask for support. And it's just, you know, when we speak about feminine, it doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be woo-woo. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're, you know, burning candles and you've got your crystals and you're, you know, whatever people's perception is on the feminine. It just ultimately means we feel safe. And women feel safe when they've got the financial means to support themselves, because that is the roof over your head. That is the food that you get to, you know, put on your table. When we feel safe, we become more of who we are. And we, you know, that is our feminine. So that's something that's really powerful and something I'm quite passionate about.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love how you know, touched on asking for support rather than permission. And that's something that I definitely did. Like, I invested into this business without telling my husband, because I didn't need his permission. But when I told him, I did want his support, and which he has too, been supporting me over the last couple of years. But he is also found his own passion in trading. And so now he gets to do that. And, you know, I just love seeing him lit up as well, doing something that he loves rather than constantly working. Yes, he is working. Yes, we're looking at, you know, having him retire or reduce his hours in the very near future. But, you know, it just gives us options, doesn't it? When we look at the old conditioning of go to school, get good grades, you know, this is all like be the good girl, you know, go to university, get a job, work hard for someone until you're 65, 70, and then retire. And I love that we are shaking up those paradigms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the funny things, I was always a little bit more of you know, the rebel, and I scared the crap out of my parents. You know, I was doing things that they didn't even know were possible. And, you know, like, I remember many years ago, back in the day, you know, I went and did like a little beauty therapy course. And, you know, my dad, please forgive my swear here, little ears warning. And I lived in a house where, you know, the word bum was a swear word. So there was no swearing. And, you know, I invested $3,500 in this course in the 90s, early 90s. My dad turned around and he looked at me and goes, "You bloody dickhead." Because he was never exposed to the fact that, you know, women go to beauty salons or have treatments and get their nails done and that type of thing. And it just terrified him, because in his world, and he's such a supportive, you know, person, but it's his world, you know, and again, this is, you know, a few generations ago, if you would, or years ago, decades ago, you, as a woman, you were a teacher, a nurse, or a secretary. Here is your roadmap to life, sweetheart. And I just went in a completely different direction, because I wanted something that I could, you know, work with globally anywhere I went, you know, in beauty therapy, hairdressing, things along those lines. I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do. I think I was like 17 or something at the time. And yeah, I'm like, I don't know. But I'm like, you know, it doesn't matter where you travel in the world. You know, this is a career that you could fall back on, you know. And at 17, at that stage, pre-internet, you know, mobile phones and da-da-da, that was really quite rebellious. So I think it is just one of those things when we get to do things and realize where our people-pleasing behaviors come into play. And when we get to do things, we're giving permission for others. So like your hubby being able to do his trading, for my hubby to do his jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. And like the ripple effects of this for any mums, any parents, fathers out there that may be, tuning in and listening, this is really, really powerful, because our kids will mimic, they learn from us. The way that we speak is the way that they'll speak, and what we believe is what we're teaching our kids. So it's really powerful.
Absolutely. They learn from what we show them, not what we tell them, don't they? And
Yeah.
I look at, I too was a bit of a rebel as well. Like I had my children in my, my mid-20s, so quite a young mum, and I chose to be home with them. So I started a personal training business from the front room of my home, like to know that I could work around my kids, because of course, a bit like you, like the internet wasn't around, mobile phones weren't around, stuff like that, so I had to be an in-person thing. And so I was the first person in our family, like in generations, to actually start my own business. So that was a whole new ball game as well. So you've got some amazing things happening right now with you've linked arms with some epic entrepreneurial women. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that and how people can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've been bringing together is a week of women. So this week we are dropping into a group all of the tools, the tips, the tricks, our mindset hacks. We've got some giveaways. So it's a week worth of women that are creating wealth online. And, what it is that they're bringing their stories to the table. And, whether it's someone that started off who, has never, like right now is just starting on the internet to start off with, but can see the leverage. And as you said, Dee, you wanted to work from home and be around your kids. And the tricky thing is, you're still working from home, but you're trading your time for money. And when you get to learn how to leverage your time a little bit smarter, well, a lot smarter, it makes a huge impact. So they're the things that we're dropping in. And if anyone is interested in learning more or coming in and seeing what we're offering, it is free for this week. So you can send me a message, drop a comment down below. It'd be amazing to have you in this space. And I'm just excited to be able to work with other women. When women come together, we are really powerful when we're in circles. This is why we are the talkers, because we get to bounce off each other and really create something magical. So a week worth of wealthy women who are making it work online. It's an exciting space to be.
I love that. And I so agree. Like, as so often as women, we think that we have to do everything by ourselves. And that's how I was raised, because I had the most amazing mum, but she was so independent and just did everything. And so, because that's how she was raised as well. And so that's how I thought I had to be. So when I got to link arms with other women, and I love how Napoleon Hill, he shares this in his book, Think or Grow Rich. Like, we can have the energy of one battery, and it's just the energy of one battery. But when we put all of our batteries together, like, the energy is just so multiplied. And that's what we get to do when we link arms and we share stories, we share tricks, we share tips. And that's one of the things I'm most in love with about our community, is that there's no secrets. Like, whether people have, like, Kat and I have no financial connection whatsoever, yet here I am, like, here helping her promote her stuff. This is where so many women in our community, and there's men as well, like, when something works, they share it. Like, it's not like, no, my secret, can't have it, like, KFC's secret recipe. It's like, here's my secret recipe that's working for me. Take it, make it your own, and see how it works for you. Have you found that as well?
When you were saying that, the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And society has had us move away from our villages. Some people don't know their next door neighbors. Our families, we're moving in different suburbs, different states, different countries. So, where society is just, particularly Western society, we're moving away from that. And it's so important that we get to come back together. And, it's this whole thing of, I'm not going to share my secrets. That comes from a scarcity mindset, and a lot of the times that can be linked into a money story. And I remember hearing it shared once, and it was, you just because you're taking or earning money, you're able to receive money, doesn't mean you're taking it from somebody else. You're not blocking somebody else from receiving it. You know, the sun comes up every day. You can't stop somebody else from receiving their sunshine. Yeah, we are all, it's our birthright to be able to receive. And if something comes up, this is the thing, if your pot's kind of stirring a little bit, if there's a trigger in there, this is like that spotlight. You're like, oh, okay, there's something there that is actually blocking, you know, and in the coaching space, we call it a limiting belief that's actually blocking you from reaching your potential. So for me, being able to come together and be around other people, and you know, sometimes you might get a little bit wobbly in life, and it's nice to have, you know, another woman, you know, whether it's, you know, online or face to face, just go, hey, I got you, come on, we can go together. And you're like, oh yeah, that's all right. You know, that maybe, you know, the sneaky little habit of doing everything by yourself, maybe that kind of came in for a second, and you're like, hey, come on, we're in a group here, we get to thrive. So having that community is, it's you know, the cliche, it's powerful beyond measure. It really is powerful. Yeah. And I love how you said, like, bring the batteries together. That's such a beautiful, you know, analogy of what it is. So for sure.
Because at the end of the day, everything is energy, like what you talked about. Like, abundance is energy. Like, nature is in abundance. The sun is energy. Money is energy. And when we bring that all together, there is no shortage. And we get to like, you know, it's a cycle. So it goes out, it comes in, it goes out, it comes in. Just like the ebb and flow of the ocean, how the sun rises, like, it's all, when we look at that and relate everything back to nature, it's like, why have we made everything so hard?
The Industrial Revolution, it's done some good things, but it's got some explanation. We've got some explaining to do.
Yeah, amazing. So if you're interested in watching, like what Kat has, you know, just shared about sharing all the stories about the wealthy women, reach out to her and take a look. And if you're in my space, reach out to me. We just did another masterclass this morning. We've got a mentorship happening next week. There's just so many people saying yes to themselves right now, and just really understanding that creating an extra income stream online is no longer a luxury. It's actually a necessity nowadays. So is there anything else you'd like to finish with, Kat? Any words of wisdom?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me on here. My heart is full. It's a beautiful way to start the morning. Thank you for that. And, you know, reach out. You know, you've got beautiful souls. You have nothing to lose in reaching out to Dee or myself and asking questions. You know, become curious, get to explore things. This is where possibility starts to really breed and be able to excel. So Dee, thank you so much for having me, beautiful soul. Thank you for everyone that has tuned in, and I cannot wait to connect with you more in the future.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have the most fabulous day.